The introduction to the Parshas says, you should be Kedoshim, because I am Kadosh. That's what it says in the beginning of the Parsha. The verse says, you should be Kedoshim, because I am Kadosh. I am Kadosh. Now, as I thought, although we're going back to the Chumash, I thought it was very appropriate to talk a little bit about the idea that by us, the Kedushas, there's also a din of Kiddush Hashem, which means that a person has to die to show the Baruch Hashem's Kedusha, basically is what it means, to make a Kiddush Hashem. There's a thing called Chilul Hashem. And so this concept that the Baruch Hashem is Kadosh is the most fundamental concept. And in the davening, those who daven with a minyan, 4 times a day we say Kedusha. We say Kedusha. And in that we talk about the Malachim and this. I thought we would talk about that a little bit, or more than a little bit. And I want to show you some material that there is on this subject about Kedusha because of the word of Kedoshim to you. I'm going to hand these out. Okay. First of all, you're handing and passing around. I want to point out that there's a kedusha that we say after Baruch Hu in the morning. It's called kedushas yoitzer because the Baruch is yoitzer or Baruch Hashem. It's referred to all over as kedushas yoitzer, the kedusha of yoitzer. So in every kedusha we stand, and in that one we sit. And maybe we'll get around to discussing why we sit there and we stand everywhere else. Another point I would like to point out is that in every Kedusha, we say at the end, Yimloich Hashem lo'elam elokayach tziyonu dor v'dor. And here we don't say Yimloich in this Kedusha. And why don't we say Yimloich in this Kedusha is also a very important point. Why don't we say Yimloich? Now Kedusha is made up of 2 fundamental psukim. So let's take a look at them. The first one is in Yeshaya Perek Vav. The Perek begins, Mishnas Moisa Melech Uziyahu, which is a discussion by itself, why it begins that way and what it has to do with it. And in the year of the death of the Melech Uziyahu, Ve'ereh es Hashem, Yoshel Kisei Roman Yisrael, I saw Hashem sitting on a chair, high and uplifted, V'shulav Malei Mesahechol, and his skirts were filling up the Heichel. Which Heichel are we talking about? The Heichel of the Beis HaMikdash. Srafim oimdim imaloi. Srafim were standing up around him. Sheish knafayim le'echad. Each one of them has 6 wings. V'shtayim yechaseh p'fanov. With 2 he covered his face. So the Targum says over here so that he should not see. Uv'shtayim yechaseh raglov. With 2 he covered his feet so that they should not be seen. Each one of these words is an immense discussion. With 2 of them he flew. He flies. One calls to the other and says, Kadosh, 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 Hashem Tzvakos, Moloi Chol Kevoidai. Of course, this is what to talk about. We can spend half a year discussing this pasuk itself. Vayenu Amos Hasipim Mikol HaKorei, Vabaye Simolei Oshon. And the supports under the doors were shaking from the sound of he who called out Kadosh Kadosh, from the called out voice, and the bias, which was the Heichel of Beis HaMikdash, Yimolei Oshon, was filled with smoke. That's the first pasuk. The second pasuk is in Yechiel, Perek Gimel, and over in Perek Aleph, Yechiel is taken up completely with what's called Maaseh Merkava. He saw a Merkava, and it's taken up with the Merkava. Then the Baruch Hashem talks to Yechiel and has a long discussion with him and speaks to him and fortifies him about the troubles he's going to have and what he expects from him as a Navi. And then it says, Vayomer Eloi ben Adam es kol devarai asher adaber elecha, all the words that I speak to you, kach bilavavecha, take it in your heart. It was nechoshma, and listen carefully with your ears. V'leich bo el hagoyla, and go to the golus, because Yidden were now in golus. El b'nei amecha, to your people, v'dibart aleim speak to them about and say to them, Hashem Elokim im yishmu v'yechdolu. Will they listen and will they stop? But this any ruach, and I was picked up by a wind. The eshma harai, and I heard behind me koil raj godoil, a great noise. Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo. The koil kanfei hachayos mashikos isha alachoisa, and the wings, the sound of the wings of the chayos, which was in the Perek Aleph, that he saw chayos. Mashikos isha alachoisa were touching one to the other. The kol hoifanim, and the sound of the ifanim lumosam were opposite them. The koil rash godoil, and the sound of a great noise.
The ifanim, what?
He says, he says the coil and the voice and the sound.
Oh.
There was a sound of the wings touching each other, and there was a sound of the ofanim, and there was a great noise. The kol rash godoil. V'ruach nosasani v'tevcheni v'elech mar b'chamas ruchi v'yad Hashem olai chazaka. And a spirit picked me up and took me, and I went. It seems I went with bitterness. V'yad Hashem olai chazaka. The Baruch Hashem's hand was strong on me. V'voyel ha'goyla, and I came to the goyla Tel Aviv. Hayoshim al har kavor. V'eshev, and I sat there. I came to Tel Aviv, which is on Har Kavor, is the name of the city. V'eshev, and I sat. Heimo yoshvim shom, where they lived there. V'eshev shom shivas yomim mashmim b'soichem. And I sat there 7 days among them. Now, there's an interesting machlokes about Yecheskel's nevuah. When Yecheskel saw the Ifanim, when he heard Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo, who precisely said Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo? Who says Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo? The Kedoshim is made up of Kadosh, the first part in Yeshaya, and it's made up of the second pasuk, Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo, as we all know. Who said Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo? If you look carefully at the psukim, you see it's not 100% clear who said it. He said, I was picked up by a wind, and I heard behind me Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo. And then it says, the kol kanfei chayos, and I heard the voice of the wing, the sound of the wings, and I heard the voice of the ofanim that were opposite them, and I heard a great noise. But it's not clear who said Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo. So if you look into, there's a very ancient source called Tona Devei Eliyahu, which from the times of the Amoraim. In Tona Devei Eliyahu, this is Perek Zion or Zvav, but in 3 places in Tona Devei Eliyahu, it says the same aside. Davar Acher in Vav, B'Melech Shloimei, when it says in Shir Shirim, go see the Melech Shloimei, which means B'Melech Malchem Lochem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It means that Kadosh Baruch Hu was Melech Shloimei. That says all over that when it says Shlomo in Shir Shirim, it refers to Rabban Shlomo. Shemiskavin, why is he called Shlomo? Shemiskavin, because he intends V'Oisa Sholem, and he makes Sholem Barba Meos V'Sishim V'Shisha Alofim Ravovei Shemalach HaShoris, among the 496,000 10,000s of the Malach HaShoris, She'oimdim Lefonav, who stand before him, Umagdishin Shmoy HaGodol, and they sanctify his name B'chol Yom Tomid, every single day. Mitzias HaChamo Ad Shkias HaChamo, from sunrise to sunset, Oimrim Kadosh Kadosh Kadosh. Umeshkias HaChamo Ad Yitzias HaChamo, and from sunset until sunrise, Oimrim Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo. Shenemar, how do we know he makes shalom? Shenemar, Oisa Shalom b'mroimov. He makes shalom in his heavens. So when we say in the end of Kadosh, Oisa Shalom b'mroimov v'yasa shalom aleinu, it's referring to the fact that he makes shalom between the malachim in heaven. That's b'mroimov, in his high place. He makes shalom. How he makes shalom between those malachim? The surprising thing, and the shock of this, when I first saw it, I was shocked. The shock of this is, the chiddush is, that the same, it's very clear, and I said it's repeated 3 places in the Sefer, that the same malachim who say Kadosh Kadosh say Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo. The difference is that they say Kadosh Kadosh by day, and by night, from sunset till sunrise, they say Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo. The reason why it's a surprise, because first of all in the Siddur it doesn't say that. It says in our Siddur, it says the Efanim and Chayas HaKodesh lift themselves up opposite the Srofim, And Lumosam, whatever that means, we may discuss it later. Mishabchim Yorm, they say a Shevach, Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo. So this is Beferish, not like that. I did a little research, and I found that the Medrash Rabbah, the Siddur, of course, I pointed out, a very important source called the Pirkei Rabbi Lezer, and the Toras Kahanim, 4 places, all say Beferish that the Ofanim Chayes HaKodesh say it. And the commentaries on there point out, of course, it's the Ofanim who say it, they say, because of the fact that it says in the pasuk over here, it says over here that he heard a koel raj gadol, and then it later on describes that the koel raj gadol seems to be connected with the kanfei achayos, and the koel hoifanim, and that together is the koel raj gadol. And he said, I heard after me a koel raj gadol. So it seems that this koel raj gadol that he heard, Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo, he heard in the raj gadol, came from the chayos and the ofanim, and it came from the that was the koel raj gadol, came from them. So it came from the ofanim. That's what the Meforshim say to explain the Pirkei Rabbi Lezer and to explain the other sources. However, a little further research, I worked on this for a while. A little further, I found that Be'emes is a Sha'al in the Gemara itself. The Gemara itself has a suffix about who says it. The Gemara is in Gid Anosha, Perik Shvi of Chulin. It's on Tzadik Aleph, Omid Beis. It starts, and the bottom little piece, the last 2 lines of Tzadik Beis, Omid Aleph. Tzadik Aleph, Omid Beis, it has a discussion about a Malach. The Malach who wrestled with Yaakov Avinu. He's wrestled with Yaakov Avinu in the middle of the night. So, because the dawn has gone up. What does that mean? I'm going to skip over this. He said, why do you want to run away? Are you a Ganav? Are you a card player? So he answered him, he said to him on the 3rd line, Malachani, I'm an angel. And from the day I was created, it never came my chance, my opportunity, my time that I'm supposed to say shiur ad achshav until now. So let me go, because it's now dawn, and we saw that after sunrise they say shiur. It says my chance to say shiur. So Gemara says Messiah Rav Chananel. This proves, supports the opinion of the statement of Rav Chananel in the name of Rav. The Omer of Chananel Omer Rav. There are 3 groups of Malachei Hashoros who say shiur every day. Achas Omer is Kadosh. One group says nothing but the word Kadosh. Achas Omer is Kadosh. The second group says nothing but the word Kadosh. The Achas Omer is Kadosh Hashem Tzavokos. And the third one finishes the pasuk Kadosh Hashem Tzavokos. Very good, more Meisvei. I want to ask you a question. I have a question on this that you say there on what Rav said, that there are 3 groups, and each one says one of the Kadosh. The first one says just Tam Kadosh. The second one says Kam Kadosh, and lays the path for the third one. It's Kadosh Hashem Tzavokos Mechoretz Kavodah. So I want to ask a kasha, Meisvei Chaviv in Yisrael of Kadosh Baruch Hu Yosim Malachei Hashoros. Jews are more precious to the Baruch Shalom more than Malachei Hashoros. How do you know that? Yisrael Oimrim Shira B'chol Shor. Malachei Hashoros ain't Oimrim Shira Elo Pamachas B'yoyim. Yisrael say shiur all the time, and they say once a day. V'amilo Pamachas B'Shabbos, and some say the Malachim say only once a week. V'amilo Pamachas B'Chodesh, some say they said only once a month. V'amilo Pamachas B'Shana, say once a year. V'amilo Pamachas B'Shavua, once in 7 years. V'amilo Pamachas B'Yovel, some say once in 50 years. V'amilo, some say Pamachas B'Olam, that the Malachim only say once in eternity. So this Malach who comes along and says Kadosh, he says it only one time in eternity. And you didn't say it all the day. We didn't say shiur all the time. Then it says further, the Yisrael maskirin es, and beside this Mila that you didn't have that they say all the time, Yisrael maskirin es Hashem achas shtei teivos. Yisrael are permitted to pronounce God's name after 2 words. Shenemar Shema Yisrael Hashem. After 2 words they say Hashem. Umalachei Hashoros maskirin es Hashem. Ein maskirin es Hashem ela achar gimel teivos. They only pronounce the name after 3 words. Shenet kidachsiv Kadosh 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 Hashem Tzavokos. See this, and furthermore, ve'ein Malachei Hashoros amrim shiur lamalo. Malachei Hashoros cannot say shiur up in heaven. Ad sheyom Yisrael lamata, until you didn't say down here shiur. Shenemar Baroin Yachad Koich Ve'Boiker V'Hodar V'Yariel Kol B'nei Elokim, or Elohim I say. When all the stars of dawn sing together, afterwards v'yariyu, and then they scream out, Kol b'nei Elohim, all the angels. So the question that the Gemara asks from this brisa is that we see in this brisa that malachim say after 3 times, and according to Rav, some malachim, the malachim who say Kadosh Hashem Tzavokah, say it only after one word, Kadosh Hashem. So how could it be? Here it says that malachim say it after 3 words, and you didn't say it after 2 words. And for the Gemara, Elo, we must say the pshat is Elo. When the Gemara says Elo, means it retracts the previous statement. Elo means charota, it retracts the previous statement. Elo, achas ameres kodesh. One group says kodesh. Achas ameres kodesh kodesh. Second group says kodesh kodesh. Achas ameres kodesh kodesh Hashem Tzavokos. And the third one says 3 times kodesh. So therefore, the malachim who do say to Hashem, they say it after 3 words, and Yisrael say it after 2 words. Correct the Gemara. V'ha'ika baruch. How do you say that the malachim say it after 3 words? V'ha'ika baruch. There's a baruch Kevod Hashem imply. And for the Gemara, baruch hafanim hu the amrilei. We were talking about malachim, but baruch is said by Ofanim. That's what the Gemara says. Baruch is said by Ofanim. The boy is saying more, and if you want, I will answer to you. Came this yoav v'shusa is yohiv. Once permission was given to them to say to Shem, because they said 3 words, Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. So after 3 words, they're allowed to say it. Then they can say to Shem without another 3 words. So according to the first teretz, who says Baruch, the Ofanim say Baruch. According to the second teretz, who says Baruch, the Srofim say Baruch. The same as say Kadosh, say Baruch. But once they have said Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Hashem Tzavokos, and said it after 3 words, then they can say to Shem without 3 more words. And only 3 more words every time they say to Shem. First they have to say 3 words, and then they say to Shem, and then they can say to Shem without 3 words. So therefore they say Baruch Kevod Hashem without. Soon. There's a lot to talk about, believe me. I spent about a month on this so far. So, what you see over here in the Gemara, which is very critical, is that our interpretation of the Eliyahu Rabbah is not at all mistaken, because there really is in Chazal 2 different views. One view is that the Ofanim say Baruch, and the other view is that the Srofim say Baruch. Now, if we look at there's a difference. The difference is in which heaven they are and the different creatures. Srofim stand a mamaloi, and they are above the rakia, and they speak directly to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. We'll see later on, if we get there, I hope, that the Ofanim do not even see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Although they're part of the Merkava, they don't see HaKadosh Baruch Hu at all. Now, what is the meaning of Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo? So you have to understand that the word mimkomo, Chazal were medayik very strongly, and they said mimkomo implies that they don't know where he is. And the Siddur reflects that, because in one place in the Siddur, in the Musaf of Shabbos, it says like this. It's interesting why it's only in the Musaf of Shabbos, not in the Shachris. There's a lot of things to talk about here. It's very, very interesting. And the Musaf of Shabbos says like this. They call Zel Zev Yomar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. That's the Srofim. And then it says a piyut, in which it says Kavoidai. It said like this: Malay Chalor is Kavoidai. The whole earth is filled with His honor. And it's repeated by us. That's where the pasuk ends, but the piyut repeats and says Kavoidai Malay Olam. It says Malay Chalor is Kavoidai, right? Kavoidai Malay Olam. There's a comma. His kavod fills the earth. Mishorasav, his servant, Shalom Zelazeh, Ayeh Makom Kavoidai. And they ask, where is the place of his kavod? Lu'umosim, when they are opposite them, Baruch, you may say Baruch, Baruch Hashem mimkomo. So what it says over here is that the Mishorasim ask one the other, Ayeh Makom Kavoidai. That, the Meforshim explain, is an extrapolation from the fact that it said mimkomo. Since it said mimkomo without saying where the mokum is, so obviously they don't know. And they are saying, Mamash all said, Rashi and the others, they all say the same shot. There's less mandapalik. That the shot is when it says mimkomo, it means they do not know where his mokum is. And yet, so therefore, and that is expanded into the word of shoyalim zelazeh. They ask each other, where is mimkomo? I am mimkomo kavodah. But the question is, how could they not know where he is if it says beferish in the pasuk, Maloi chol ha'aretz kavoidai? What do you mean where his kavod is? How can they ask where is the mimkomo of his kavod? The mimkomo of his kavod is Maloi chol ha'aretz kavoidai. The whole earth is filled with his kavod. Where's the mimkomo of his kavod? What do you mean, where's the mimkomo of his kavod? His mimkomo is all over. The whole world is filled with his kavod. And especially according to the Targum over here, which you know in Volosiyun, it comes together, the psukim together with the Targum. So if you look there, what does it say over there? In Volosiyun it says that Maloi chol ha'aretz kavoidai is translated u'makablan dein v'dein v'omrim, they receive one from the other and they say Kaddish, the first Kaddish, in the high heaven above, which is the place where the Shechina is. Kaddish al ara ova gevurte, holy on the earth, that is the work of his strength. Kaddish olam meil maya, and holy forever and ever. Hashem tzavokos, and Hashem tzavokos then comes in the pasuk, and what Malay Choras Kevoidai, Malya kol ara ziv yakore. The whole earth is filled with the shine of his honor. So what do you mean, I am mimkomo kavoidai? Mimkomo kavoidai means kavoidai molei olam. The world is filled with the shine of his honor. The world is filled with the shine of his honor. All over. So how they ask, how come they don't know that? The Teretz is l'chayr. Because what is the difference between the nevuah of Yeshaya and the nevuah of Yechiel? Yeshaya saw, as we see on the top of the page, he sees Yoishiv al kisei rom v'nisa v'shulov malei mes ha'heichol. What does the heichol mean? The heichol is the Beis HaMikdash. He was sitting on an uplifted chair, and the skirts of his gown were filled up to heichol. And when they yelled Kadosh, Kadosh, what happened? The doorways of the heichol shook, the doorposts, and the room and the bias was filled with smoke. The heichol was filled with smoke. The Beis HaMikdash was standing. Baruch Kevod in heaven was sitting on a throne, and the skirts of his gown, whatever it is, the shulav, filled the heichol, the Beis HaMikdash. And when they yelled Kadosh, Kadosh, the Beis HaMikdash shook, and the doorway shook anyway, the doorposts, and the place was filled with smoke. Where did he see? He didn't see him in the Beis HaMikdash. I didn't want to see the whole Ma'aseh Merkava. He saw the Kadosh Baruch Hu sitting in some esoteric chariot. So Rashi and the Radak both explain. The Radak says, I'm not allowed to explain too much. I can't explain this to you. I'm not supposed to. But this I can explain to you, so we can talk about it. So Radak says, why was he in a chariot? Because the Beis HaMikdash was Charav. Because he lived after the Churban. That's why they were living in this terrible place of Churban called Tel Aviv. Pardon the joke. But that's where they lived. They lived in Tel Aviv. And and he sent him to go to Tel Aviv. Against his will, he didn't want to go. He was bitter that he was being sent to this place. And to try to get the Yidden to do tshuva in the Golas. And the Rebbeinu Shalom was on a chariot, and the chariot had wheels that were living creatures. Alfanim means wheels. And there were chayos who directed the wheels, and they were connected the wheels with the chayos in some way. And it could go in any direction. The pasuk says beferish, it can go in any direction, all four directions it can go. And it can go into any direction it can go. And the reason that he's on a chariot that goes in any direction is because Yidden are now in Golos. So here we can understand what is the difference between the two Kadosh and Baruch. What's the difference between the two? The Kadosh is said, as it says over here in the Tanakh Velio, it said from sunrise to sunset. When the sun is shining, it implies that things are right. There's a Geula. There's a Klal Yisrael in its place. There's a Beis HaMikdash standing. A Beis HaMikdash is standing, and therefore the Shechina is in the right place. If the Shechina is in its place, so therefore from its place, it shines out to the whole world. You know that the windows of the Beis HaMikdash were not made in a way that to increase the light coming in, but they were made shkufos atumos. They were made, shaped in a way as if the light is shining out from the Beis, not to collect light, but to give out light. Because the Beis HaMikdash gives out light to the whole world. In the Beis HaMikdash, korbanos were brought for the Ayin Umayis for the 70 nations of the world, and the whole world was nizayin, and the Shechina, whatever there was in the world, came through the Beis HaMikdash. That was the source. Everything was in its place. That was the daytime. The nighttime, which always represents by the Nevi'im, represents Golus. As the Navi says, Shomer Mami Laila, Shomer Mami Leil. Shomer tell us about the night. What is the story of the night? And it's always described Golus as a night. Yaakov Avinu wrestles with a Malach at night. So therefore, at night, the Shekhinah is not in its place. Since the Shekhinah is not in its place, where is the Shekhinah? The Shekhinah, Rabbi Yisai, is maybe here among us in our room now. The Shekhinah may also be in Lakewood. It may be in Flatbush. It may be Ichveis where you want. It can be anywhere. So they don't know where the Shekhinah is. So therefore they ask, mimkomo kavoidai, because where is the Kevod Hashem? Because the Kevod Hashem no longer has a base. It no longer has a house. It no longer has a source. So from where does it go? Because wherever Yidden go, that is the Shekhinah Imoim. The Kevod Hashem goes with them. That's why it says in the Pasuk, when we're told that there'll be a Geula, it says at the end of the Dvar there'll be a Geula. So the Pasuk says, V'shov v'kibetzcha mikol ha'am asher fitzcha Hashem al kecha shomer. The Baruch Hashem will come back and bring you back from all the places where He scattered you. So the Chazal say, V'heishiv lo nemar ela v'shov. They point out, it doesn't say V'heishiv, which is the grammatically correct meaning, I will bring you back. V'heishiv means I will bring back you. It says V'shov, I will come back. So therefore it means because where Yidden are, the Shekhinah is also Begolus. If the Yidden are not Begolus, the Shekhinah is a Begolus. The Shekhinah is not. If the Yidden are Begolus, the Shekhinah is in Golus with them. And V'shov, and He will come back from the Golus, and He'll bring us back with Him. So therefore, it makes sense that when they say Baruch Kevod Hashem and they don't know where the mimkomo is, the pshat is they don't know where the mimkomo is because the mimkomo, there is no mimkomo. Wherever the mimkomo is all over. There is no mimkomo. There is no mimkomo. So therefore, since there is no mimkomo, so therefore they say Baruch Kevod Hashem. They ask, and they say wherever it may be, if there is such a place, Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo wherever it is. Yeah.
How does this stem with Malay Kol Does that mean sometimes here, sometimes there?
No, Malay Kol means it's even throughout the world, because that is a time of Geula. But Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo means that there is no mimkomo, or the mimkomo is not clear to us where it is because of the circumstances. And that is said by night. So therefore the Torah of the Veil Yoah says very well, that it's said by night because the night, the malachim of the night represent the Golus. So we can understand that when we say Lumosam Baruch Yameru, that when we're saying opposite them Baruch Yameru, because since the world is half day and half night, it says from sunrise to sunset, sunset to sunrise, so the world is half day and half night. So these malachim are saying Lumosam, these are saying Kadosh and these are saying Baruch. Why? Because simultaneously the world is in day and it's a night. Rabbi Yaakov Emden says in his siddur, in his commentary to his siddur, Rabbi Yaakov Emden says Lumosam doesn't mean a geographical place, but Lumosam means a time. Opposite them in time, he says. So that would fit perfectly with what we're saying here. That Lumosam, Baruch Yameru, means that they're not in a geographically different place, but opposite them in time, they say Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo. Well, now the question is, however, we're in Golus. So how come they say Kadosh? Are they still saying Kadosh when we're in Golus? So there's a very deep implication here, Rabbi. So I'm going to try to tell you something. I think it's a double Parshas. The world of Geula and Golus coexist. They both coexist at the same time. There's a world of Geula and there's a world of Golus, and they both coexist. They're two worlds coexisting. When it says Sheshuas Hashem keheref ayin, the Rebbeinu Shalom's Yeshua can come keheref ayin, and we see that in Mitzrayim, l'mashal, they went out of Mitzrayim in such a way that they never expected to go out so fast. That's the story of the matzah, so that they didn't bake any matzah, didn't prepare any food, because all yuchelis mamei were unable to wait. They went out so fast because the Geula was so fast, and they had been told, have your belts on and have your boots on when you eat the Korban Pesach. And they had been warned about it. But they could not accept it was going to come so fast. So they picked up the dough unleavened, and then when they got out in the midbar, then they baked the matzahs because it had fallen, right? That's the whole why we eat matzah. And that's a symbol of the matzah for us, that the Geula comes so fast. The pshat is like this. The Gula comes fast because the world only has to give a delay from night to day. It all exists already. Nothing has to come into place. The world has to give one turn from the dark to the light, and the Gula is here. And the same way that if you're a matzav of light, you could give one delay, you can fall into the dark. I remember we have at home an essay that my father-in-law wrote. He wrote a year after the outbreak of World War II. So he was wondering, in the essay, he wonders, how did this all disappear so fast? And he writes in the essay, he says, you know what the shot that took place over here is? What took place over here is that we really are in essence a wandering people. And that which we have, we're set up in Bialystok in an apartment, and we had curtains on the windows, and we had beds. We were set up in Bialystok, so nicely, a new married couple, with a baby, with the crib and the whole thing. He said, you know why that happened? That was an exception to the rule. We are now at the rule, not the exception to the rule. That's how he understood to himself. How did it evaporate like that? How did it evaporate like that? And how does it evaporate that way? Because the world gives one turn, and it's just from light to dark. There's not even a bein hashmoshes. The bein hashmoshes we have, because we have a suffix as a night or as a day. So therefore it's not even a bein hashmoshes. It just turns from light to dark. As fast as is humanly possible, this change occurs. So therefore the malachim of the day say Kadosh, the malachim of the night say Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo, and they're saying it at the same time because both worlds coexist. Yisrael Salanter says a very interesting insight into two worlds coexisting. In Chumash, the Chumash starts off by saying Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'es haaretz. The first chapter is Vayomer Elokim yikovu hamayim. Vayomer Elokim yihi rokia. Vayomer Elokim taitzei haaretz. And then in the second chapter it starts after Sheni. Eil told us hashamayim v'aretz bihi boram. This is the history of the heaven and earth when they were created. B'yoyim hasois Hashem Elokim eretz hashamayim. For the first time Hashem's name is mentioned. Hashem Elokim. So the Chazal say, what is the reason why here it says Elokim for the first chapter, and then the second chapter says Hashem Elokim? He says the reason it says that is because B'tchila Ola B'machshava, to create the world. First, the Baruch Hashem intended to create the world. It says with the Midas Hadin, and Elokim means judgment, and it means the Midas Hadin. And we've explained many times that the Pshat is the Midas Hadin. When you put this table, the sefer down on the table, why doesn't it just go right through the table and fall down? What stops it? The density of the table is strong enough to withstand the weight of the sefer. Why can't there be an exception to that? That's din. The whole world is made with rules. The whole world is made with dinim. And the dinim of physics are dinim. If a person in Chalila swallows poison, they die. Why? That's a din. The din is that poison is not supposed to be in the body. It destroys the body. That's a din. If the world would be only with din, like the physical world around us is only with din, so then humans could not survive with din. Because humans sin, and they do all kinds of other terrible things, and they would be immediately destroyed, because the din is that if you do something wrong, you should be destroyed. Just like if you stick a knife into somebody's heart and you kill him, he dies. So if you do, the person who does that ma'isa should also die. Skumtam right away should die. So therefore the world would be destroyed for every time a person is mechuyev misa. So Baruch Shalom then made Yishtatav Imay Midas Harachamim. He mentioned the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei today with Elokim. So the world was created with Midas Harachamim together with Midas Hadin. That's why in the second chapter it says Hashem Elokim, not Elokim. Now you know, on Yom Kippur it says that we have Asar Ruge Malchus. So one of the lines in that piyut about Asar Ruge Malchus, it says, Ki al dover koton nishpach domam. For a little thing, their blood was shed. Rabbi Kiva and all these people who were killed, Asar Ruge Malchus, it says, al dover koton, for a small thing, their blood was shed. They didn't deserve to die for what they did, or on a dover thing. So what is the pshat? How could they be killed for a dover koton? So Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, here's where Rabbi Yisrael Salanter comes along and he says like this. He says when the Chazal say that the world was supposed to be B'midas Hadin, and then it became B'midas HaRachmim, and Midas a combination of Rachmim and Din, he said it doesn't mean that the first world disappeared. The world of din exists and continues to exist together with the world of rachamim and din. There are two worlds that coexist. There are people who choose to live only in the world of din. Why do they choose to live only in the world of din? Because you can imagine that if a small thing can kill you, can you imagine the reward for a small thing? So they've come to such a madrega that they want to live dafke bedin. Because they want to live dafke bedin because they know that the reward for a small thing is gigantic, just like the punishment for a small thing is gigantic. So when Rabbi Kiva and Asari Rugamalchas and others are killed, they're killed for a small thing, it's not because it's a small thing, it's because they're killed, because they've chosen to live in the other world, the world of din, that coexists with the world of din and rachman. And since they want to live that way, so therefore they were punished very severely for a small thing. But of course the reward is much, much greater. The Vilna Goyen was careful. He came to such a madrega that neshamis called Magidim used to come to him and to teach him Torah. And the Vilna Goyen used to send them away. He said, I don't want to learn from anybody, I want to learn only myself. But there came neshamis from the Beis Yosef, from others, who wanted to teach him the Torah that they knew and make it easier for him. He said, I don't want it easier. I want to schwitz on it. Why did he want to schwitz on it? Because he wants to earn it and serve it. That's what he wants to do. So therefore those, Rabbi Kiva and V'chaveirov, they wanted to live in Olam of Din. And they could live in Olam of Din because the Olam of Din coexists with the Olam of Rachmim and Din. So just as much as two worlds can coexist, Rachmim and Din can coexist with Din, with a pure Din, so too an Olam of Golus and Geula can coexist. And they coexist at the same time. And the Malachim of Geula are singing Kadosh Kadosh because the Geula is here in their world. And the Machlokes and the Malachim of Golus are singing Baruch Kevod Hashem simultaneously. Lumosim at the same time they're singing both songs. L'Osed Loved Novi says, Hosea, I believe, he says there's going to come a day that is not day and not night. That is not day and not night. What does it mean, not day and not night? That eventually, at the end of the story of the world, there will be a merger of day and night, of Golus and Geula, and there won't be separation anymore between two worlds, you fall from one to the other, because the Geula will have come, and the world will be a different world, of not day and not night, a different kind of a world. So this is what Hayotzim Dvarenu, according to the opinion, the second opinion in the Gemara, Riboy Yisema, and according to the Tana Devei Eliyahu, that's in front of us. However, the Siddur says not like that, and as I mentioned, the Torah's Kahanim, the Medrash, Pirkei Rabbi Lezer, all say not like that. They say V'fanav V'chayis HaKodesh, as we say in Shachris. V'fanav V'chayis HaKodesh, V'snasim Lumas Serofim, V'fanav V'chayis HaKodesh, lift themselves up, opposite the Serofim. He's saying Yotzeh, Lumosam Baruch Yameru, and when they're opposite them, as some translated that way, I don't think it's the correct translation. Lumosam Shabchim V'yoimrim, V'fanav V'chayis HaKodesh say Barash Godo. And they say, it's very clear, Meshabchim V'yoimrim, they say. And all the Rishonim bring rayas from the Lashonis of the Siddur. The Siddur is not just Stam Siddur. They all bring rayas from the Diuk from the Lashonis of the Siddur. The Siddur is a very important source. So here, we have a different Mahalach. And this is the Mahalach that we seem to hold from. And this Mahalach is that who is saying Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo? Not the same Malachim are saying it at night in the dark, as it says here in Tana Devei Eliyahu. But who is saying it? They're Fanav V'chayis HaKodesh. So how come this says Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo? So here Rashi and the others all say, because the Fanav V'chayis HaKodesh do not know where his makom is, because there's a rakia on top of them, and they don't see him. Now the Afanim, what's interesting over here is that the Afanim Chayes HaKodesh are the creatures, the beings, I should call it, are the beings of the Merkava. The Afanim are the wheels of the Merkava. The Chayes HaKodesh are the force that moves the Merkava, that moves the wheels, and it says where the wheels move, they move wherever the Chaya goes, instead of the wheels of the Merkava. So the Afanim and the Chayes HaKodesh, the Afanim and Chayes HaKodesh are the Merkava. So how is it possible that they don't know? And not only that, but they hear, not only that, But listen to this. But they hear, they pick themselves up opposite the Seraphim, because who says Kadosh, Kadosh? The Seraphim say Kadosh, Kadosh. And when they hear them saying, they raise themselves up, and they say, also, they say Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo. But yet, and they say Baruch Kevod Hashem, and they say Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo, they don't know where the mimkomo is. Right? So the Befer, they don't know where the mimkomo is. I am mimkomo Kevod. What's going on here? It's a very interesting thing here, l'chayr. To me, this contains an echo of a Parsha in the Chumash. The echo of the Parsha in the Chumash is as follows. Yaakov Avinu is a man of the night. Why is he called a man of the night? Because it says he was Mesaken Arvis. He was Mesaken Ma'ariv. Why is he Mesaken Arvis? Because his whole life was a Golus. He was in Golus from Esav. He was in Golus from Lavan. Then he came to Eretz Yisrael, and he suffered with his daughter, and he suffered with his son, and finally he ends up dying in Golus. The only good thing that happened to him was to take my bones out of here and bury me back in Eretz Yisrael. He was a Golus Yid. He was the first Golus Yid. He lived in a Choshech, in Nebuch Vatzorovit. Yaakov Avinu, before he goes to meet Esav, has a wrestling match with a Malach. The Malach wrestles with him, and the word wrestling is vayei ovek. It's such a powerful wrestling experience that the word ovok means dust, that the dust rises up from the ground. Not just a little arm wrestle. From the kicking, from the pushing, from the trying to overcome each other, the dust rises from the ground. And vayei ovek ish imoy, a man wrestles with him, but the word is dusts with him. A man wrestles with him. And finally, the man is unable to conquer him. Because we have a Chumash. So it's in Vayishlach, in the beginning of Vayishlach. Let's find it 1 second. It's Perek Lamed Beis Pasuk Chofei. By Vosa Yaakov Avada, Yaakov was left alone. By Ovek, where is it? Lamed Beis, yeah, Chofei. By Ovek Ish Imoy, a man wrestles with him out of Lesser Shachar till dawn. By Yarkil Yochaloi, he sees he cannot conquer him. Viga B'kaf Yerechoi, and he touches his thigh. Vateka Kaf Yerech Yaakov Be'ov Goyimoi, and in the wrestling, his thigh was dislocated. And we no longer eat the Gid Anosha all these years because of this. Because of this. And the person says to him, we just learned the Pasuk here in the Chazal, in the Gemara in Chulin. Shalcheni Ke'olah Shachar. Send me because the dawn has risen, and it's my time, I've waited all these years. Maybe it's one time in eternity for me to say either Kadosh or Kadosh Kadosh. To say shiur. I'm going to say one word that exists for this word. I will not send you. What's your name? So the Malach says to him, what's your name? He says, Malach. He says, Yaakov. Kim Yisrael. You'll be called Yisrael. You have wrestled, or you have sought mastery. The word Sarah means a master. For you have sought mastery with Im Elokim, with God, or Pasha, it means, or with great people, or with Malachim, is used in various ways. And with people, Vatuchan, you're able. You sought to master angels and God, and angels and men, and were able to. But Yishol Yaakov Yomar Gidon no Shemecha. You just asked my name. What's your name? Now, according to Chazal, he'd already told him he's a Malach. So he said to him, what's your name? Every Malach has. This Malach was moonlighting, obviously, because he's supposed to say shiur. He was a moonlighting Malach, but he has a job in life. He has a job. See, he was, according to the Medrash, there's different names that are suggested who he was. One Medrash said, one place suggested he was Malach, Sarashal Esav. He was Esav's Malach. He had conquered Esav's Malach. That's why he managed the next day with Esav. Some say he was Mechoil, the Sarashal Yisrael. He was his own Malach. He had conquered his own Malach. He conquered himself. Some say other names. So he asked him, who have I conquered? You say that in my wrestling in this darkness, in this night, in this golus, I've done something, I've conquered. Tell me your name. Tell me what I've accomplished. Tell me who I mastered. Who did I conquer? Vayomer, he said, Why do you ask who I am? Baruch, I say, and he gave him a bracha. So part of being in the Golus is not knowing what we're doing here. And that's the story of all of us. We're in the Golus, both in the Golus of Klal Yisrael, we're part of Klal Yisrael, also we're in Klal Yisrael's Golus. We open up the papers and we see that Iran wants to wipe out our people. We don't feel it a direct threat because we're in the United States. Or then we open up and we hear that in the colleges in the United States that you're not allowed to speak out against the Arabs, fakirity. You're not allowed to be prejudiced against them. What's going on in Colombia with those and Jens. And we have a little pachat, sitam nahas, a little bit of pachat, so we should also be in the Golus. A little pachat chapsachon. Because after all, the colleges are the source of all thought in America, as it is in every society. Who knows how long we have here? I just bought a house with a big mortgage. Fair enough. Who understands? And then we have our own personal goals. Every one of us has a goals. We have a goals in our families, goals in our personal lives, a goals with our tzaras, a goals with our boss, a goals with our workers. There's an all goals. It's one great goals. So who have we conquered with this? Who have we conquered with this? What have we accomplished with this? What have we won? Lama tishal shmi, why are you asking? Which means, do without knowing what you're doing. You get up in the morning and daven up, get on the train, go to work, which is with the boss, try to get around and cut a couple of corners here and there, come back. Why are you asking kashas? Your job is to do without knowing. Why are you asking my name? Don't you understand? Don't you understand that Golus means that you don't know? That's part of Golus. If you know what you were accomplishing in the Golus, it wouldn't be a Golus. You'd be more simcha. And what's interesting is, I think there's an echo. This is an echo of what the Malach, of what the Yofanah and Chayes HaKodesh, who carry the Shechina into the Golus, and they say, I am a Kedoshim Kavoidai. Where is he? And here they hear an echo that Malach is Kavoidai, but they don't see it. And we too hear an echo of the Malachim, and we repeat it to ourselves, Malach is Kavoidai, but we don't see it. So we say, Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo, because there is in heaven, there's also living, intelligent creatures who don't see it. And they're the ones who bear the Shekhinah, they're the wheels for the chariot. And they don't see where's mimkomo kavoda. They don't see it either. Imagine, to bear it and not to see it. Precisely what we do in Golus. We bear and we don't see. We don't understand what we're carrying, and we are carrying the Shekhinah with us. And we're in Golus for a purpose to carry the Shekhinah with us. There's no question. And where a Yid goes, there's something being accomplished because Yid is there. And if a Yid is out there, out west, I'm not talking about Kiruv and Ashpor. Beside that, there's some mysterious thing that's being done by us being in Golus. That's why we are in Golus. Something is being accomplished. Some great tikkun is being accomplished by our being in Golus. But we don't see what we're doing. And we have to plunge on through life, and through our own ignorance, and through our own shtus, and everything that we go through. Other people's shtus is worse than ours go. We have to put up other people's shtus, and our own shtus, and everything else, and our families, and whatever. What we have to put up with, each one of us has a pekel. And yet, we are doing something, and we don't know what it is. And that is precisely what the Golus is about. Baruch Kevod Hashem and Koimai. So with this, I think we've opened up Kodesh and Baruch. But Rabbi say at the end of Kedusha, there's a third thing mentioned. Yimloch Hashem la'olam. In every Kedusha we say Yimloch Hashem la'olam malakayach tzil v'davador. Strangely enough, this is not in the Kedusha of Yoitzer. In Yoitzer or Choshech, in Birchas Krishma, we do not say Yimloch. We just say Baruch Kevod Hashem and we go on. Where's the Yimloch? So I'll tell you where the Yimloch is. In the Kedusha of Yoitzer, you know what the Yimloch is? Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Because Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad is Kabbalas Malchus Shamayim. Kabbalas Malchus Shemayim, accepting the yoke of the kingdom of heaven upon us. And that means Yimach Hashem Lo'ilon, which means the Yevarev Shiz Melech. Now, in order to be a Melech, for us to accept the yoke of heaven upon us, do you think it's possible if a person would be up in heaven, if he would be Zeicha somehow to be up in heaven, above the Rakia, that the Chayas can't see, past the Rakia, and he would see all the way up in heaven, and you see Hashem, Yoshev Kisei Ram V'Nisa. You see Hashem sitting on Kisei Ram V'Nisa. What a sight he would see. Do you think that he could be this Makabel Malchus Shemayim? He would be so overwhelmed that it's not shaykh to be Makabel Malchus Shemayim. It's not shaykh to be, you're going to be Makabel Malchus Shemayim. Yasha Koyach, you be Makabel Malchus Shemayim. Yasha Koyach there. Makabel Malchus Shemayim. It's so overwhelming. It's just overwhelming. He couldn't talk. He couldn't speak. He couldn't move. Who is he? You know that when the Chazal speak about the Chayos, they don't speak about them in measurements. They speak about them in time. A way of describing him. They say that the Malach, that the Chaya has, the length of his foot, from his foot to his knee, is, how long is it? 500 years. They don't say 500 miles. How many miles can you travel in 500 years? You have an asagah? Amazing. They're talking where there's no time and there's no space, and the only way of measuring things is in time. Eternities. You would be up there, you would see. The Torah says that Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim means that you don't see. And the reason that Yimloich, which is speaking the Rebbe shall be a Melech, and I accept him as my Melech, the reason I accept him as my Melech is because I don't see that, and nevertheless I accept him. I don't see, and nevertheless I accept him. And since I don't see and I accept him, so therefore after the Baruch Kevod Hashem, that is where Yimloich comes in, and that is where Krishma comes in, because I don't see him, and I am now when I don't see him, I'm just like the Malachim of Yechiel, the Ofanim and Chayos of Yechiel, who don't see him, but they bear the burden. So therefore I say, if the Chayos in heaven bear the burden, and they carry him, and they are his Markova, and wherever he wants to go, they carry him. So I too am bearing the burden. I accept upon myself the burden of carrying the Shekhinah where it's supposed to be. That's the Pshat, Kabbalas Malchus Shemayim, where you don't see. So therefore first is Kadosh, then is Baruch, and then is Shema. In Musaf is Shema, and in Shachris is Shema. Chazal say, now, I'm almost finished. I must have burnt out a couple of guys here, and I'm really sorry for all this stuff. But what can I do? I'm loaded. I'm pregnant. I have to give birth. Huh? Okay. You'll notice that there is no Kodesh and Baruch in Ma'ariv. And the reason no Kodesh and Baruch in Ma'ariv is because we hold, not like the Tanakh of Eliyahu, but we hold the Srafim and the Yofanim who say it, and they're saying it only by day. So there is no Kodesh and Baruch in Ma'ariv. There's only a Shachris, Kodesh and Baruch. But nevertheless, there is Kabbalas Malchus Shemayim at night also. And since the Kabbalas Malchus Shemayim, so therefore there's also the song. There's also the song of Kabbalas Malchus Shemayim. There was a song said when Yidden were first Makabel Malchus Shemayim. What was that song? The song was Shir Hayom. It says, "Malchusay brought son kiblu aleihem." They were Malchus Rarubanecha, Bokei Hayom of Moshe. Your Malchus, your children saw when you split the sea. Umalchusay brought son kiblu aleihem, and they were Makabel Malchus. And since they saw your Malchus, they were Makabel Malchus. So they said two important things: Mimkomo, Beilam Hashem. Who is like you? There's none like you. And Hashem Yim Loich Yoelam Voed. Those are the two central psukim of Shir Hayom. And we say them after Shema because Shema is Kabbalas Malchus Shemayim, and they said Malchus Shemayim. You know what Chazal say? It's so interesting. What Chazal say about the people who stood at the Yam and saw the splitting. Chazal say, Ro'asa Shivcha Al Hayam Mashlei Ro Yecheskel Ben Buzi. Rashi brings it. The Shivcha saw at the Yam more than Yecheskel saw. It doesn't say more than Yeshaya saw. It said more than Yecheskel saw. An ordinary person at the Yam saw more than Yecheskel. You know what it means they saw more than Yecheskel? Because there was Malchus. Malchus means they didn't see everything. They saw mimkomo, Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo. They saw that you have to carry, you have to bear. They saw that there's a Malchus someplace, there is a Malchus, and something is accomplished, and the Eibush is a Melech. So what desired in Makabal Malchus. Because what they saw there was like Yecheskel. Chazal very meduyik. They didn't see there like Yeshaya Novi. Because Yeshaya Novi is not Shaykh Malchus anymore. Malchus requires that there should be acceptance of the Malchus. Acceptance of the Malchus requires that something should be hidden and that you don't see it. That you don't see it all, and nevertheless you struggle on. That's Malchus Shemayim. I struggle by day, I struggle by night, I will carry on. That's Malchus Shemayim. So they saw Yecheskel ben Buzi's vision. And when they saw Yecheskel ben Buzi's vision, they saw Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo, which is struggle on. That's why Malchus is only with Yecheskel comes Malchus. After Baruch Kevod Hashem mimkomo. I think I should complete the discussion by pointing out that there are 3 Kedushas in the davening. The first one is Kadosh, that we say Yotzer Orvar Chosh, we say Kadosh, without any imply. That Kadosh is concerning the first Kedusha that it says here in Uvola Sion. In Uvola Sion it says Uvola Sion Goyel, there will come a Geula. So it says over here, Kadosh, 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 Hashem Tzvokos, and Lechos Kavodai. So what does it mean? V'kor Azel Zev Yomar, U'mekablan, and they receive one from the other, instead of a call, it's translated and receive it. And this is a targum on the Tanakh. For Oren, they say, Kaddish, the first Kaddish, B'shmei Meromo Elul B'shechinte. Holy in the high heavens above the place where his Shechina is. Which means the first Kaddish has got nothing to do with us. The first Kaddish is in heaven. So we tell over that they're standing Barum Olam, they're standing up there and they're saying Kadosh and they're saying Baruch. But then the second Kadosh is Kadosh al Ar O Gevurte, holy on the earth, to make the work of his might. The earth, that's where we are. And we say Kedusha on the earth, and we say Kedusha Kishem Shemagdisha Mosai B'Shmei Moraim. Just like they say on B'Shmei Moraim. Either we say the Kadosh Shimcha, or we say Nagdisha Van Ritzach. We will do like the Malachim, and we now say Kedusha, and we put our feet together like a Malach, and we say Kodesh, Kodesh, like they say in heaven. And here we say Yimloich, because we people are accepting upon ourselves the Malchus. Then there's also Kadosh, Yom El Maya. But the third Kodesh is Kodesh forever. First Kodesh is in heaven, second Kodesh on earth, the third Kodesh is in eternity. He's Kodesh for eternity. This third Kodesh is the one over here in Uvola Sion. Why? Because this talks about the future. Uvola Sion Goyel, there will come a Redeemer to Sion, and for those who do tshuva, Vanizas Brisas Amar Hashem, and Hashem says that I have an agreement with them, that my spirit and my words, that it will never depart from your children and your children's children. Amar Hashem Me'atov Ve'ad Olam. It will never go away, so there will be always Yidden. There will always be Yidden. The Ruach will be in them, and the words will be in their mouths. There will always be Yidden who learn Torah, and always be in have a Ruach of Yiddishkeit. And it will be forever. The Rebbe promises, I make an agreement with you. There will always be Yidden. And so therefore there will always be Yidden. There will be a Geula for them. There will come at the end of time a Geula. Therefore now there will be a Geula. And we talk about the future. We're going to say now Kedusha, about the future Kedusha. And the future Kedusha is Olam Maya, forever. Eternity. We are eternal, and the Kedusha is for eternal. Now, this one is translated in Targum. Targum is translated. Could be translated in Targum because it's important. But it could also be, according to Taisus and Brachas, based on Taisus and Brachas, I would say it's translated into Targum, because the time will come when there will be no Kodesh and Chayil. The language of Targum will be just as sanctified as the language of Hebrew. As that Kedusha that there is in the Hebrew language will be the same as the Kedusha is in Targum, which has now Kedusha by itself. There will come a time when the whole world will be sanctified. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, over here, as a symbol of that, the Kedusha is also rendered into Targum, so that we should understand that someday the Kedusha will permeate the whole world, and the whole world will be sanctified. On that day, in order to say Kedusha, we won't have to stand. We won't have to be like Malachim. We won't say Nekadosh Shimcha like the Malachim say. We're going to do like the Malachim. We're going to say those words, but we don't have to say it the way they do it because we don't have to be Malachim. We can be human beings, and we can sit, and we can speak English and Targum, and still the Kadosh will be throughout the world. The Kedusha will be. Because someday the Kedusha will permeate the world. And meanwhile, in the interim, we know about the future, and we know about the heavens, and we know about the present, and we say Kedusha 3 times.